these were, the USO would have these traveling shows that would come down to the Airmen's Club, oh, 3, 4 nights a week, and you could go down. They were all free. They were all Koreans. They like imitated the McGuire sisters, and they would have dancing and they sang American songs, but they couldn't speak English. That was Miko Taka, who played opposite Marlon Brando in Sayonara. Now this was in a hangar filled with GIs, and I just loved Miko Taka from that movie, and I edged my way up and wound up climbing up on the stage to see where her right hand is. I was sitting down below her right hand. I took a couple pictures of her from that way. The only person there that I was Bob Grant. He was a poor man's Bob Hope, and they had a Christmas show that Miko Taka joined. Connie Stevens was in that show too, but that pig, she wouldn't come out with any of the airmen. She hung around with the generals and stuff like that. But more pictures of Korea. Connie Stevens is everybody in Korea thought she was a pig. She just had nothing to do with the airmen. Korean morning. It's pretty. We walked all over that base. We walked and walked and walked. There's the flight line. I think those are C-47s. Oh, I tell you, that C-47 was one hell of a plane. Oh, that's, I think that's, I know that's me pitching there, but I can't remember. I don't know if that was a P. Yeah, that's got to be on K-55. It's got to be on, yeah. Walt Martin is in the middle. Doug Wall and Phil Palmer. Martin was a good buddy of mine. Oh, that's Grace. Grace Ohm, I think her name was, and she was one of the better endowed Korean girls. She worked at the Airmen's Club too. The Airmen's Club, they would go out to movies and dates with you, but no sex at all. That's another girl, Susie or Helen. No, this is Marie and Susie. The last one was Helen, and that's Miss Pak. Pak Song-hee. She was cute as that. All those girls worked at the Airmen's Club. And the flight line. I think I might have been leaving about this time. Well, I obviously wasn't on that plane, but that's the flight line. I went from there. I flew from there to Japan to meet up with there. It's a Daiichi Hotel. That's where I stayed every time I was on R&R. That's General MacArthur's hotel, right downtown. That's what Tokyo looked like in 1950, 57 or 58. It wasn't nearly. Now, if you see the movie The Bridges of Tokyo-ri, there's a scene in the place called the Showboat. This is a showboat. The girls you'd sit there and entertain you, and you could take them out on dates. And that was a girl I took out on a date. What was her name? Watanabe, I think. Her name was Watanabe. She took that picture of me in Tokyo. We went to see the movie Vertigo. Never forget. And then I flew from Tokyo down to southern Japan and met up with Vassie and Schmitty. And we bar hopped for about 60 miles down to their base, and that was a picture of the morning after. God, we were dead. I hadn't seen him in a while. And I'm back in the United States. That's my 51 Ford. My brother customized it down in San Antonio. That's Yolanda de la Garza. I met her when I was, let's see, I met her at an Airmen's Club, that was it. And I took her to see that flamenco dancer, that famous Jose Greco flamenco dancer, and that sealed the deal. But she was quite a girl. That was before she was married. I I saw her. Yeah, this was before she was married, because when I came back from Korea, we got together again, but she was married, but her husband was out of town, so it didn't much matter. But yeah, this is I think uh, before I went to Korea, if I'm not mistaken. It says here 59, so I don't know. I don't know. I may have my times mixed up, but I know I met her before she was married.
That's in Texas?
Yeah, it's all San Antonio. It's one of the parks out in San Antonio. She was a girl of some roundness. Yolanda de la Garza.
That's a great name.
Yeah. This was quite a date. Oh, while I was at Goodfellow, I was coached a high Y team, 7th and 8th graders, and that's my team in the green. We were pretty good. We were pretty good. I wonder if those kids ever went on to play college ball, any of them. There were a couple of them that were really good. That was the Takarazuka, I think it was, the dancing troupe. They came over from Japan. This is in Goodfellow Air Force Base. And there's, I know the girl on the right was my girl. What the hell was her name? I don't have it here. But that's me and her anyhow. And the guy in the middle back there was a friend of mine and his girl. He wound up marrying her. And that's Walt Martin there in the middle. He married that girl. And Schmitty, and we scraped up a date for him. And the kid on the right, I don't remember his name. But there's me and Schmitty after I had just gotten discharged. And we were driving to New Orleans. We wanted to see New Orleans. He got discharged a few days before me and flew down to Texas. And that's us on the way to New Orleans. We had quite a time in New Orleans. Now the kid on the left is Jock Lacasse. He was over in K-53 with me. And we met him he was stationed in Florida, Pensacola or someplace. And he drove all the way from Florida, New Orleans, came from New Orleans up. That's Crosley Field, Cincinnati Reds before they moved to Riverfront Stadium. This was the smallest park, seated 29,000 people. That's all. That was capacity. This is my farm. This is home up at Dawn. You can't see it too well. That's inside the barn. That barn used to spend a lot of hours in there. Hay mow, and that's the house next door, the LaFuses. They were as close to the Bumpuses from Christmas Story as you could get. I mean, they were really backward. That's our farm up at Dawn. Can't tell it too much there. That's Mary Lou Hole's house. She was my first girlfriend. First girl I ever kissed was Mary Lou Hole. There's our farm. That's our farmhouse. That was Great-Grandpa Hunter's house. I jumped off that roof with his umbrella and thought I could parachute. Ripped his umbrella inside out, and he was unhappy. But that house seemed so big at the time, and it probably wasn't. I was married as Sharon Evans. I had to take piano lessons. Her father was a piano teacher, and I was at a dance, and I went up to him and I said, "Who was that girl that you just played the song for?" And he says, "That's my daughter." And I says, "I want to take piano lessons." That's how I met her, because she wasn't about to tell me who she was. There's a farmhouse, straight on. Those two willow trees, I planted both of those when they were saplings, and look how they grew. That's the school where I started, a one-room schoolhouse. Actually, a room and a gymnasium. And just walked up there. This is our field between there and that. The right hand was the schoolhouse, and the left hand was the gymnasium. Really a small gym, but the whole school was small. That was a church across the street that none of us went to. I think Grandma Hunter, or no, not Grandma Hunter, Grandma Callie went there. She got religion. That was the grain elevator. This is the middle of dawn. There's one store and that grain elevator. This is 1035B Park Road. I think it's the address. This is Washington, D.C. When Bizjack and I went there to get jobs, and he got a job working at White Castle, and I got a job working at S&H Green Stamps, and I was trying to get into the State Department there. And I had to learn to type to get in the State Department, and I finally taught myself to type. But until then, we worked, and that's some of the guys in the State Department: Tom Bernstein, Gene Lindbergh, Henry Paisarella, I think it was. Oh, Becky Nell Hatcher. And if I hadn't married Mom, and if I hadn't married Linda Buck, she was number 3. She was something. She was from Atlanta, Georgia. And there's Becky Nell and Schmitty and Jack Bizjack and somebody's apartment. I don't know if that wasn't our apartment. Ours was really small. And Fred Vassy, I don't know if that was from New York when I went up or Washington when he came down. Oh, we're back to Ohio State. Going to college. That's Buckeye Stadium. You see, there's no south stands there. That was before they closed it in. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of our games. Who the hell would that have been? Could have been North Carolina. This had to be, you notice those thick stripes on the helmets. I think the quarterback was Unverferth, I think, who's a dentist now. I'm pretty sure it was Unverferth. But we might have been playing North Carolina there. I'm not sure. That's probably Illinois. This is before Mom came out. She went to one game. She went to the Michigan State game, and it was cold and wet and rainy, and we were sitting up in the top covered up by a plastic tarp. And she said, "I'm never coming to another game." And that would have been 66, and she never came to one till, what was that one we went to? Rice, about 92 or 3 or 4. Remember that sunny day
Oh,
out?
yeah, I got the sunburn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's been to 2 games. She was at 2 games.
Was she at that one too?
No, not the one where we were down. We were sitting in the top stands. Mom came to that one. It was a Rice game. I remember that. What? I could look it up, but it's probably about 92 or 3 or 4, somewhere around in there. Woody. Those things in the middle of the helmets were supposed to protect the head. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but I don't think it worked. I know I got a concussion from wearing one. That's the one thing that hasn't changed in all these years is the band uniforms. They still as sharp as ever. I used a 200 millimeter lens with a telextender, so it wound up being a 400 millimeter lens. That was lacrosse. You can see the lacrosse games were not as well attended as the football games. My lacrosse coach was Paul Hartman. He was a wizard. I think that's him standing with the ball cap there. He was really something. Yeah, that's him with the ball cap. Red ball cap and the white shirt and tie. He was really. He could cradle with the stick pointed at the ground. His cradle was so good. That cradling is where you shift it back and forth so the ball doesn't fall out. And he could do it vertically. That's Aunt Doris and Mom and Grandma and
Kathy.
Kathy. And they were leaving. That's Aunt Doris's house in New York. Now I don't know who took these pictures. I didn't. But that's their trip out to Ohio. I don't know if that was for the wedding party or not. There's John somewhere. I think that's a ball field that we used to play on up in Dayton. That's his tri-cart zooming around. It's in the motorcycle museum now. He donated one to the motorcycle museum here in Columbus. That may be me. I think that's me. Yeah, I can see the beard. That was quite a cart. That thing bounced along. There's Mom out in her $80 wedding dress out in the east part of town. I can't remember where it was, but beautiful dress. There's Mom and Grandma and Aunt Doris and Kathy. That's 1725 Wesleyan Road in Dayton. That was my parents' first house. That's the backyard. That was the bridal shower. And there's two of our cousins. There's Sue in the foreground and Ginny in the background. And Ginny just had a heart transplant. That's Aunt Doris, and I don't know who the kid is. Oh, that's Matt. No, that's not Matt. Couldn't be. Aunt Doris, and that was that was Butch and Paris Hamilton. They were roomers of They roomed in our house in Dayton. And Aunt, what was that? What was her name? Oh shoot. That's Dad and Kathy, and
Francis.
no, it might be Francis. It might be Francis. That's my brother John. I think Aunt Doris there. I don't know who the woman in the middle. They had neighbors